It's finally here. After a massive 29 years, the final Mission Impossible movie has hit the big screens. Tom Cruise, at the age of 62, which is insane, has turned up as Ethan Hunt for the very last time. Well, that was how it was billed at the start. But it now seems that not only will there be more MI movies, but Cruise has said he wants to carry on as Hunt. So that was all completely pointless. The big appeal of this mega two-parter was that it was the end for Cruise at the very least, and the trailers have bigged up the finality of the storyline. But it seems that money is far too big a pull, even for someone as swimming in cash as Maverick himself. So the title seems to be completely pointless, though you never know, I suppose. So, to recap. A US cyber weapon hacks a Russian sub's targeting system and sinks it. Access to the system is via a two-part key. Years later, Hunt is tasked with getting the key, half of which is in the possession of Ilsa, but goes a bit rogue and, with Benji and Luther, is chased by a CIA team to Dubai, where he encounters Grace, a thief who is also after the key. Hunt also sees a man from his past, where something significant happened that we've never heard of before. It all goes wrong, and they all split, making their way to Rome. In Rome, there's a big car chase with a bit of comedy, and they all reunite and head to Venice. Hunt reveals the mystery man is Gabriel, whose killing of Hunt's partner is what made him join IMF. We don't know what the event was, who his partner was, nor who Gabriel is, or what his part in the traumatic event was. This has never been mentioned or referenced before, and has no impact on the story whatsoever, but we are expected to care about it. At a flash party, we reunite with Alana Metropolis from Fallout. Lots of exposition happens, and Gabriel reveals that he's working for the entity itself. Another big escape scene, and Ilsa is killed by Gabriel in a fight. Cut to the Orient Express to Innsbruck. Grace uses the MI Magic latex mask to pose as Alana to sell the key to, surprise surprise, Kittredge. In another carriage, the Dread Pirate Director of National Intelligence completes the exposition, explaining that the entity was an advanced cyber weapon that infiltrated the Russian sub to disrupt it, but in the process became self-aware. The original source code is the key to controlling and or destroying it, and is located in the module still within the sub. More stunts, more fights, more sleight of hand. Eventually Gabriel escapes but has lost the key. Hunt with the key is forced to parachute or whatever off the wrecked train where Benji is conveniently waiting, and Grace effectively hands herself over to Kittredge. The end. On a $291 million budget, it just missed hitting $600 million gross worldwide, making it a definite flop. It was close to 3 hours long, and knowing there would be no resolution, it's likely people didn't want to put in the time or the money. But the resolution has finally arrived, after being delayed for a year due to changes thanks to the poor performance. The final reckoning, or what was originally going to be called Dead Reckoning Part 2, is here. It's all very confusing, but whatever. Amid 2 months have passed. The entity has gradually taken over systems, society has collapsed, and a new religion has appeared based around AI, or against AI. I can't remember because it was only briefly mentioned and has no function in the plot. In 2 months. The president gets a message to Ethan begging him to turn himself in and not try to destroy the entity. Instead, he reunites with Benji and Luther, the latter having developed a bit of tech called the poison pill, which is required to destroy the bad thing. They recruit Paris, Gabriel's former enforcer, and one of the CIA agents who helped chase them. Ethan and Grace reunite at a party at the US Embassy looking for Gabriel, but are captured and prepared for torture. Gabriel reveals that the core module in the sub is actually the rabbit's foot from MI3 that they had stolen and given to the bad guy, Davian. It's all connected. They escape, as does Gabriel, and then find the thing that Gabriel uses to talk the entity, which Ethan uses to find out what he has to do. He sends a team to find the sub, because in those few seconds he's come up with a detailed plan. Luther, who is revealed to be dying, has an emotional goodbye with Hunt, but is killed by a bomb left by Gabriel, and Hunt is taken into custody and flown back to America. On the way, Briggs, the leader of the CIA group chasing him, is revealed to have a connection to the MI of the past. For some reason, that has no real bearing on the plot and isn't mentioned again, but it's all connected. Ethan tries to persuade the president and others to have the use of an aircraft carrier to find the sub-2. The team heads to a CIA station on a remote Alaskan island, where guess who we reunite with? It's believed the CIA station there picked up the sub exploding and the coordinates could be retrieved. Then Russian soldiers show up and it all looks bleak. Ethan goes from the carrier to the submarine and they head to the island, waiting for a Morse code signal from the team that will tell them where the Russian sub is. There's a big fight, but the coordinates get out. Hunt dives into the Russian sub, goes through a prolonged obstacle course scene uses the key to access the system, and takes the module. Reunited with the team, they head to a data bunker in South Africa, where a face-off with Gabriel is interrupted by Kittredge, Briggs et al. Gabriel escapes, Hunt chases him via a biplane dogfight. Benji, Paris and Grace get into the data center, where a shot Benji instructs Grace on how to set up their plan to capture the entity in a super duper thumb drive convenient gubbins MacGuffin thingamajig. One big stunt set piece later, Hunt connects the poison pill to the module. The entity is captured. The world ends briefly, then it's all better. The end. One final reunion in Trafalgar Square, and they all head off. Maybe for the last time, maybe not. Who knows? And that's it. Possibly. No one knows. I guess we'll have to wait for the worldwide gross to find out if MI9 will be a thing. It was fine. It had good moments of levity, a bit of emotion that wasn't over the top, some genuinely well put together action scenes, and a bit of pleasant nostalgia. This really does feel like it's been made to be the last one. So at the very least, bringing back Ethan Hunt would make all of these callbacks somewhat pointless, unless it's just for a member-buried callback with a new main cast. On the walk home, I was thinking about the previous films, and something hit me. I struggled to remember them. I remember the first because it's iconic, and Ammo 2 is memorable for being insufferable in its attempt to be cool and stylistic. I remembered there was Fallout and Ghost Protocol, but not which one came first, nor what they were about. I drew a blank on the other two until I looked them up. Without Wikipedia, I wouldn't be able to tell you their plots, and I'm sure I'd ascribe scenes to the wrong ones. I wouldn't make that mistake with the Bond films, and there's 3 times as many of those. These movies are memorable for one thing: Tom Cruise's stunts. It's great to see an actor or stunt professional doing this for real, and not on a green screen, but I feel these have completely overshadowed those stories. Obviously, there's the iconic computer room scene in MI1, and MI2 was very John Woo-y. But since then, the films are remembered for Cruise and his death-defying commitment to realism. On the side of the Burj Khalifa, holding onto a plane, riding a motorbike off a cliff, the halo jump, free climbing, high-speed bike riding, and having punch-ups on 2 planes. Even ones done on sound stages with green screen have involved a huge amount of risk. They're great to see for sure, but they are the most memorable elements of the franchise. I bet you can think of all sorts of scenes from Bond movies that don't involve insane feats of courage, choreography and coordination. There are a few small issues with the plot that are annoying, like the 2-month gap between stories, which surely would have made more sense to be 2 years, and when the general asks a soldier for his gun for some reason. He uses it, but it doesn't make sense that he'd ask for it in the first place. That's nitpicking on my part for sure, and doesn't really affect the overall plot much. So, is it any good? Well, yes, it's fine, it's decent, it's exciting, it has heart, its member berries aren't overdone, though one of them doesn't make any sense. It could have been left out with no issues. You'll remember the big stunts, but the plot will be overshadowed for sure. I binge watched the previous ones a few months ago, and even now I have to look up the plots to remind myself what they're about. It feels like they wanted to make this the ending, but also didn't want to kill the franchise, so it's a bit of a half and half, with all the callbacks and Luther's death, and Ilsa's death too. But it's been left open-ended, which I think is a shame. I generally thought it would end with Hunt dying, and that all the talk of carrying on was just marketing smoke and mirrors, or a Rian Johnson subversion that would actually be good. If it makes enough money, it'll probably get a 9th. Though at 62, Cruise would be highly unlikely to do another big action film again. If they have any sense, there'll be a quick handover to a new cast, and the cash cow can carry on with other stars and other adventures. Ultimately, it's another very expensive piece of nothing much to write home about. I didn't come away thinking I'd wasted £10.99 on the ticket, though I kind of wish I'd bought some snacks to munch on. I wasn't looking at my watch, wondering when it was going to end, and that can happen in films half as long. Everyone on screen does their job competently enough, and behind the camera, everyone seems to have gotten it just right. There are plenty of problems with the plot and the editing, but for me the biggest problem is that it's been missold. Either end it or don't. So much of this was clearly designed to make it a final call for the franchise, but they seem to have pussied out, just in case the cash comes flooding in. Also, trying to make it the ending to some sort of long, overarching epic was ridiculous. No one ever thought the rabbit's foot was anything more than a MacGuffin. And the other connection to the past not only had no bearing on the story, but wasn't even alluded to in Dead Reckoning. Clearly, someone thought of it late on, and it was shoehorned in because it seemed like a clever idea. So, is The Final Reckoning worth it? I suppose so. At least Cruise is making an effort to make a proper, exciting action movie. It was never going to be Oscar bait, but it could have been a lot better. If you liked the MI films before, then you'll probably think it's decent enough. But other than the stunts, you won't find anything dazzling to write home about. It's a lot better than some of the other dross that's come out recently. But with a budget estimated at between $300 and $400 million, it needed to be a hell of a lot more to hit what would need to be at least $1 billion to break even. With any luck, this will actually be the final reckoning. But this is Hollywood, so don't count on it.